Hold it. Ladies and gentlemen, a happy new year to you all. I'd like to announce the return date for myself, the notorious Conor McGregor, for the greatest comeback of all time. Will take place in Las Vegas for International Fight Week on June the 29th. Come a little closer. And the opponent, Michael Chandler. And the weight, Mr. Chandler, 185 pounds.
All right. First of all, I just want to get out there. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are. This one is a little bit impromptu, but with Conor McGregor finally announcing his long-awaited return, allegedly, and I use that term, frankly, fairly, I think at this point, my hands were tied. I had to react. Now, as exciting as this does sound, it does make me wonder a little bit. Why that date? Why that opponent? And perhaps more bafflingly, why that weight? Who better to answer than me, an unknown MMA content creator with a tiny subscriber base and no real inside knowledge to speak of. Let's put those harrowing facts aside and talk about it anyway. So if you've been following this one as closely as I have, it's kind of impossible to ignore if you own a social media account. You will know that McGregor has been publicly whining about fighting again for over a year now. Maybe it's a little bit longer. It's all kind of a little bit of a blur at this point. Maybe somebody can correct me about this when all this started. Regardless, he is arguably still the biggest draw in the company. Let's be real, it's probably by default. Who else has really stepped up in his absence? So it's had a lot of people debating the reasons behind what the hold up for his return was. Was McGregor just blowing smoke? Was it the UFC holding things up? Or was something else just going on that we don't know about? Now, it's commonly known that McGregor suffered a horrific leg break at the hands of Dustin Poirier as far back as the 11th of July 2021. That's almost 2.5 years ago for those of you that need a little bit of help with the math. Your boy's got you. So with this announcement finally being made, it means that it will be 3 full years before he fights again. So it begs the question, what's taken so long? All right, well, firstly and most obviously, the man's leg was snapped in half like a twiglet. So as tired as I am of his mouth at times, I have to start by saying it was a massive injury. The man's shin bone was literally in 2 parts. It was the worst injury of his career. It's not something that a jog around the block is going to shake off. So of course, that takes time to recover from. 3 years to recover from? I'm not a medical professional, but you know, it takes time. It takes time. Who knows his body and how ready he is better than himself? Now, I'd normally give someone in that position the benefit of the doubt. However, he has been somewhat of a busy boy since then. You know, he's appeared at various random sporting events, from boxing to BKFC to baseball to football. He's also been filming a soon-to-be streamed released movie remake of Roadhouse, not in the cinemas. You can take from that what you will. He's been filming Tough as well. For those in the know, for those not in the know, kind of think about that as American Idol, but you know, the contestants fight each other instead of sing at the end. And he's been on his yacht, you know, a lot of time on his yacht. So, you know, the man's had things to do. Now, let's be fair, actually. We have seen some training footage kind of smattered in between all these things. And while it can be described as, let's call it light, he's looked sharp enough to my highly trained eye. I think the most important thing to note from all this is despite how busy he's been and how badly he wants to fight, it is believed that he only entered the USADA pool as of October 2023. Again, for those of you who are not sure about how that works, USADA is basically the agency that handles checking fighters for banned performance-enhancing substances. And the general rule with that is that you need to be in the pool and clean testing for about 6 months. So if these reports are true, he wouldn't have been able to fight until March or April of 2024 anyway. There is a caveat with the UFC's relationship with USADA is as severed as McGregor's shin bone used to be, but I'll get into that on a later video. Sorry for the long-winded explanation, but it's kind of somewhat important context to understanding this whole entire mess and where this comeback came to be. So yeah, we're hearing that it's going to be in July. That's the confirmed date. So why then? Now, I'm only speculating here, partially. I mean, it's blatantly obvious in some regards. But given what we've seen of his activities in the past 2.5 years, he's just not ready to go for UFC 300. It's just that simple. Take all the speculation about how intoxicated he's looked in interviews, the blurred speech, the erratic behavior. He clearly hasn't been dedicating himself to training full time. We don't need Sherlock to work this one out. It's out there for everyone to see. And regardless of what people may think about his opponent, and we will get to him in a second, he's had so many setbacks in his career to this point that this really might be his last chance to make something in the UFC. Outside of 300, which is looking underwhelming by the way, but I'll talk about that in another video. International Fight Week is always the marquee event of the year. It's always got a massive supporting cast, and McGregor's services don't come cheap. So for the date, it gives him a marquee card to jump on that has the biggest chance of generating the most pay-per-view points, which he gets a share of, by the way. And he has enough time to kind of do it. So in terms of the date, makes perfect sense to me. I've got no problem with that. So yeah, the next question on everyone's lips is, why this opponent? I mean, come on, like, it would have been cruel at this point, wouldn't it? McGregor did tough with him, which usually ends in a fight, or supposed to end in a fight. He's been promising and teasing Chandler for ages, giving this guy the worst case of blue balls since John Jones did this to us when announcing his move to heavyweight. He's held up his career up for ages, so morally he kind of has to, right? Nah. While that's part of it, we know that's not the real reason. We know McGregor doesn't give a damn about hurting anyone's feelings. Let's be real. He's a bit of a tosser. Chandler's just a good matchup on paper. He's a short, stocky guy that does have a boatload of power, but he's probably not going to try and wrestle McGregor, even though he can and probably should. Does that remind you of anyone that McGregor's faced? If you remember in his past, he had really good success about guys like Chad Mendes and Eddie Alvarez, who are of a similar body type. Just saying. Something I think people are overlooking as well is that Michael Chandler doesn't really talk that much shit. With all the skeletons in McGregor's closet now, the ammunition you can use on this guy is literally endless. And for a guy that feels like he needs to control press conferences and the narrative, come across as a little bit of a big shot, he does need an established winnable name that won't embarrass him at a press conference. It's that simple. He's also going to stand and bang with McGregor, guaranteeing a great fight as you can on paper. So if he does lose it, he can at least say, well, I was in a war and I went out on a high. Michael Chandler's also been really inactive as well. So all in all, it's the right opponent. What's baffling about this one though, and will be to many, is my final question, and probably the most baffling thing about the revelation. Why the wait? So yeah, this is actually where it really gets into the realm of genius for me. Hear me out, I am going to get to it. Now, it's known that McGregor has ballooned to a massive frame, which isn't suspicious at all. So he's probably walking around at about 200 pounds right now. Some rumors say that he's kind of walking around at about 215. So at 185, he won't have to worry about the weight cut and can focus on skill fine-tuning, which for somebody who's been off as long as he has is not a silly thing to do at all. There's nothing shocking about that to me. It also gives him a chance to catch Chandler off guard a little bit. who's been working like crazy in the gym, I guarantee it, and was probably expecting a weight of 170 pounds at the heaviest. So again, that forces a reset for his opponent, which is again really smart. Now, most importantly, fighting at 185 actually might be the legacy definer that McGregor's looking for. Why is that important, I hear you cry? Well, McGregor, as we know, is all about creating history. He can't fight Islam, he's going to get fingered. He can't fight Leon, it will be the same result. And he can't fight the middleweight champion. He's way too small for these lads. So, you can't really justify getting him to fight for a title. So how can he create or add to his legacy in the foreseeably easiest way, considering all the factors we've just discussed? Now, McGregor in his tenure in the UFC has KOs at 145, 155, and 170. Yeah, the Cerrone one counts. It probably shouldn't, but it does. So if he can somehow KO Chandler at 185, he can then claim to not only be a two-weight world champion, but he can also say he's the only athlete in UFC history to have a KO at 4 different weight classes. And we know he's going to be banging that drum like crazy. The man's a genius. The only question is he going to pull it off? Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Like and subscribe as always. If you could share the video, maybe let me know what your opinions are. Do you think this is a good fight for McGregor? Do you wish you'd seen it earlier? Do you care that it's happening at all? Personally, I'm at about 50%. I'm not really that bothered. You know, I've kind of been sick of the whole thing, but you know, it's exciting having McGregor back to some extent, and we're all going to watch it just to see what happens. So yeah, let me know what you think. As I said before, I hope you're all having a wonderful New Year's Day and that you have all have a wonderful rest of the year. Yeah, so I'll catch up with you tomorrow where I'll be releasing the next one. Yeah, have a great one and take it easy. In a bit.